My guest today is longtime educator and friend Fred Maynard. Fred is currently teaching math at Smith Station High School and publishes a popular news commentary on Facebook several times each week. Fred, I don't know if that's achieving the notoriety that you were seeking or not, but you do seem to strike a nerve with a lot of people that agree with the things you post.
Yeah, and good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Um, it's funny you mentioned that. I started that, believe it or not, I started it as things my sons would say, the silly things they'd say. The first one was my younger son, Will, had gotten in trouble for something. And as fathers do, we don't want to punish everything, but I was getting on to him about it, and he said, "That's okay, Dad. I'll pop my own butt." And so, I thought that was just hilarious. And so I posted that on Facebook. People loved it. They thought it was hilarious. And so I did that. But then they reached an age where they quit talking to me about things and saying funny stuff. So I started filling the gap with other stuff. And I've always liked the news, and that's how it started. And got about, I guess, 300 people on Facebook, and I don't know how many of them read it, but I know I'll go out in public, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I read your stuff all the time," and I'm like, "Great, thank you," but that they'll never like it or anything else, but they'll tell me, "Oh, I read it all the time." So I don't know what my numbers are. I could have 75 loyal fans reading it. I don't know, but I do it a lot for me. It's therapy for me. It keeps me busy writing and staying on top of the news. So that's why I do it.
Well, that's great. And like most writers, you've discovered that there's not a lot of money in
No, there's not. I,
it. It's,
I haven't made any money off this yet. So
my wife mentioned the other day, I gave her something else I'd just written to read, and she mentioned something to the effect of, what are we going to do with the dozens of dollars you've made over the last 25 years writing? So I understand completely. Uh,
yeah.
Fred, talk a little bit about your educational history. Go back to elementary school.
Oh goodness, I got to remember. Um, Dad was in the Army. We moved from Hawaii to Fort Benning. I lived in South Columbus, went to Muscogee Elementary, lived right behind the school in a trailer park there. And so I walked to school till second grade. And then we moved to Smith Station. Dad found a place out there. So we lived there. And I was there from second through eighth grade. And then we moved to Russell County, and I graduated from Chevala High School. So, um, yeah, I will basically, I tell people I went to school in Alabama, but I've lived in Georgia most of my life now. I moved back across the river at some point, but yeah, I went to school in Alabama. Went to college in Troy. I went to the actual Troy State. It wasn't Troy University then. So, um, got a graduate degree from Troy State in Phoenix City, and got admin certification. Did that at CSU, and then went to Auburn. Did everything but write the paper. I'm what they call ABD. I'm sure you've heard that term many times.
Absolutely.
It's a sore spot with my wife, and I understand, but student loans are expensive. So that's where I am. I've done all the coursework. I was a doctoral candidate. All I had to do was write the paper, and my major professor was saying, "Well, it's going to be at least another year, maybe two." I'm like, "No, peace out. I'm done."
Well, I understand. Very few people understand that they still charge you money, even though you're not really going to class. You're just working on your own, writing that paper.
Yes.
You have to be enrolled. Yeah.
Yeah. The idea, and it wasn't really so much as the idea bothered me, but, I forgot what they called the hours, dissertation hours. Yeah.
Right.
And you had to have at least 10 of those at Auburn to write your dissertation. And you're right, you could send them the stuff. "Oh, you're not enrolled, we're not looking at it." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So yeah, that worked against me there.
Yeah. Uh, who were the teacher or the teachers, Fred, that influenced you to become an educator?
I would say it was probably two of them. I had a sixth grade teacher, Sandra Nesbitt, at Smith Station. She was just awesome. The way she ran a class, kept us all working and so forth. I mean, we were sixth graders. I can't say anything positive about sixth grade, having taught it a couple of times, but she was great. And then Mary Stark, who I know you know very well.
Do know Mary?
She was my English teacher in high school for 10th and 11th grade. And I just enjoyed the way she taught. And, she wasn't always on topic about things, which, was always interesting. We did a lot of different stuff in there. So I enjoyed her classes as well, and, kept in touch with her until she passed away recently. So, yeah, those were my two.
Some of the most interesting and educational moments I remember from school were when teachers got off topic and talked to us about things that nobody else would talk to us about.
Yeah.
I still remember some of those moments as key in my educational growth.
Yeah, I have to be careful, and I'm easily distracted sometimes, and I got to be careful. I don't try to talk about controversial things, but just off topic stuff. Kids want to talk about things like last week we got into the dumb discussion of electric vehicles, and I was surprised at how well versed they were in a lot of the things about electric vehicles. And it was a math class, but they got off on it, so we talked about it
Well,
for a little bit.
there's a lot of math related to that you could go into.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
what made you decide to be a math teacher?
Well, I wasn't very good at music. I enjoyed band. I was in the band. I played trombone, but I wasn't very good at it. And so I was good at math. One of the things that stuck out to me is I had a terrible Algebra 1 teacher, and I'm not going to mention her name here, but she was terrible. And so I was good at math. I had already done a lot of algebra with my dad when he was in college. He went to college after he retired from the Army. So I did a lot of math with him sitting at the kitchen table. So Algebra 1 was kind of basically a repeat for me there. I didn't get credit for sitting at home doing it. There wasn't homeschooling at that time. And I'd always have kids coming up to me, "Hey, how did you do this? What do you do here?" Things like that. And I wound up teaching a lot of the kids how to do it. So math was my thing, I guess. I've enjoyed it. I'm one of those weirdos. I see this stuff and I read about it and watch videos about it and stuff like that. So that's where math has come from for me.
Now that's interesting. The positive effects of the GI Bill are not often seen in any other congressional legislation. Uh, in other words, that's one of the few success stories out of Congress that we can talk about. And it's not surprising that you were the beneficiary of your dad's study.
Yeah, he tried to get me to do some of the other things with him and talk to him about it. None of it really interested me, but the math I did enjoy. I got through. He finished with trig. He got through trig in college. That's all he had to take. But because of him working with me and getting so far advanced, I was able to go to college while I was in high school. I earned a lot of credits. Matter of fact, when I graduated high school, I had 69 quarter hours, which was just a few away from being a junior when I actually went to college full time. And it was because of him. He got me interested in learning and doing well in college and all that. So
That's great. I took Algebra 2 in high school, and right before uh, I was about to graduate and end all my classes, the Algebra 2 teacher, Miss McBride, pulled me aside and said, you're not really good at math, but I think you know enough algebra not to hurt yourself. So that's about where I was in math. Um, what was your first administrative position, and what led up to that, Fred?
My first admin job was assistant principal at Jordan. Chuck Kelly hired me as assistant principal. I'd been a teacher there for 15 years. Did department head, worked with him on scheduling and so forth. And so when the assistant principal that left and went to Rothschild, he hired me to take over, and I did all the scheduling that year and got into it. I enjoyed leadership. I've always enjoyed being a leader. I can't say I've always done a great job at it, but I've always enjoyed it and being able to help. I never took it as a position of, bossing people around. Even though as well as I do, every once in a while you have to pull out that admin card and say, look, this is what I said, this is what we're going to do. But most of the time it's just helping, serving, making the job easier for the teacher. And that's what I took from it. That's what I did. And I always try to make it better for the teachers. If it was, hey, 5 minutes, you need to go to the restroom, go ahead, or hey, I need this resource, or hey, I need that, just whatever.
That's a key that a lot of administrators need to know about, making things easier for teachers. I've always thought that teachers have the ability to make administrators look smarter than we really are.
Yeah.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, I used to always tell admin that I worked with that we're no longer in the classroom. And, we can't forget what it was like in the classroom. We've always got to keep that in mind. Like I said, I did it for 15 years. And I don't know how long you were a band director, but I know it was several years. And sometimes they forget. We've all seen those administrators. They, did it for a short time and then they forgot what it was like to be a teacher. And I never forgot that.
That says a lot for how effective your administrative techniques were too. Now, I know your family is an important focus in your life. And tell us about your wife and your two sons, Jordan and Will.
My wife is an amazing human being. She keeps me grounded. She also keeps me humble, as wives are prone to do. But she puts up with me. She inspires me. She's a great teacher. She teaches elementary music, and she's done that for 27 years. So my hat's off to her every day. And, she's taken on additional responsibilities now towards the end of her career. She's now the PBIS coordinator at her school. And, she's finding out what, administrators always find out. It's not the kids that drive you crazy, it's the adults.
Sure.
And so she's found that out, but she'll come home and complain to me, but she goes to work and she does it all with a smile. The kids love her. She does a great job with that. My two boys, Jordan and Will. Jordan is, I learned more about autism from him. He has autism, and to talk to him now, and he has come so far, has been amazing. But I learned so much because never expected. I don't think anyone ever expects to have a child with special needs, and we certainly didn't. And he just, trying to work with him, trying to show him things and teach him and explain to him, like, look, buddy, the world doesn't care that you're, special needs. And so he's learned that, and, he's out there, he's a productive citizen. He's going to school. He wants to, get his national certification for welding. So he's working in that direction.
Well, maybe he can loan you some money.
I'm hoping. I keep telling them, I'm gonna move in with one of y'all one day. So, your mother and I are moving in with y'all. Will, he's, he just graduated high school, so he's still figuring his way around. He doesn't know what he wants to do yet, which is fine. He's only 19. How many 19-year-olds know absolutely what they want to do?
I did not.
Yeah, and so he's figuring it out. He's decided here recently he wants to go back to school, which is fine. But now he's got to focus on what he wants to do. He was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know why I'm here. We didn't push the issue much. And so he's figuring out that, he wants to do stuff with math, not necessarily pure math, but, things related to it like accounting, business, things like that. So he's moving in that direction.
Well, excellent. It took me quite a while once I was in college to figure out just what I was doing there.
Yeah.
And I had the extra incentive of the last year of student deferment, so my grades had to stay up, um, or I was going to find myself in a tropical location somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, Now you're a certified band parent at this point.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Uh, 4 years going to competitions. I actually enjoyed the competitions. I did enjoy watching them compete. And we wouldn't go just to watch Smith Station. We'd go and watch a bunch of the other bands and so forth. So it was fun, watching those kids and knowing how hard they worked. I don't think people realize how hard marching band students actually get out there and work. It is incredible, the hours they get out there, put that show together, work as a team, yell at each other, cry with each other, that whole family dynamic that you don't see anywhere else, but you do see it in a marching band. It was fun. I'm glad it's over now. 4 years was enough. But yeah, getting to go to these competitions was a lot of fun.
And one of the benefits that a lot of people don't think of marching band is everybody needs to be at that time in their life a part of something.
Absolutely.
They have to be a part of a group that's bigger than themselves. And I think the lessons they learn from that are far and away more important than the actual formations or the music they play.
Well, one of the things when I was administrator is I'd always tell freshmen, find your niche, find something to get involved in, whether it's athletics, whether it's band, whether it's, clubs, whatever it is, because high school in and of itself is boring, the classes and for a high school student, for the most part, it's going to be boring. And what makes it interesting is those other things, those clubs and whatever. So, like you just said, a sense of belonging. And that was always my message to freshmen: get involved. And, you've seen the research, I've seen the research where, kids who are not involved in something, lower GPAs, greater risk at dropping out, all that. So that was always the big encouragement for me is, hey, get involved in something.
I think that's an excellent point. And ninth graders, while they may not often listen to it's important for them to be reminded of that. Now, um, how do you think education has changed since you first began teaching?
Wow. I started in 87. So, I'm 37 years. There's so many things, but yet, a lot of people say the kids have changed. And I go back, no, the kids really haven't changed. Kids are still going to pull shenanigans. You're still going to have those dedicated kids, which we still do. We're going to have those who are going to do just enough to get by, which we do. What I've seen is where education used to be thought of as teaching you to become a better member of society, going back to the John Dewey 7 cardinal principles, we're trying to raise you to be a better member of society and things like that, teaching you how to think, teaching you different things. School has now become almost utilitarian. What can I get out of this for me? Why do I have to learn this? I hear that question so often. Why am I taking this? And we could have asked the same things. No one has ever held me at gunpoint and asked me to quote a Shakespearean sonnet, but I've learned them. I went through Mrs. Stark's English class. We learned Shakespeare, but I've never had to learn a Shakespearean sonnet, but I never once questioned it. I was like, okay, I'm better for this, literature, then the dealing with the different conflicts that a person goes through, it made us better thinkers. It made us more, uh, I guess, a more whole person, if that's correct grammar there. But
It's close enough. I understand exactly what you mean, and I think you're right. And I had a teacher in high school that I was questioning why we had to learn algebra and why we had to take this and that. And her response was, because you don't want to live near stupid people. And I thought, that's probably as good an answer as I've ever heard. And I've remembered that, and I've used it several times before. That you really don't want to be associated with stupid people any more than you have to.
no,
So that in itself, I think, is a reason to continue doing what we've been doing. Now, which group, you've already answered this, I think, which group has changed the most, students, teachers, or parents? And it's probably not students. Students' primary job is always to question whatever we tell them.
yeah.
If we tell them the dress code is this, they're going to push it. If we tell them they can't do this, they're going to, you know, like the cat about to knock the glass off the table, they're going to inch it just a little bit at a time, right up to that line, if
Hmm.
not past it.
And if you're not looking, it's going over.
That's exactly right. So between teachers and parents, who's changed the most in education?
I want to say it's parents because and I don't want to, I'm not going to say parents have done it directly per se. I think when No Child Left Behind, and to me, that's the turning point, what happened. We absolved parents of all responsibility at that point. We said, schools have got to meet this mark, all those different things that came out. We've got to close the gap between the different groups and so forth. And learning is now the responsibility of the teachers. And I'm sorry, I love this job, but I have yet to been able to force a child to learn a single thing in my entire life. It just doesn't happen. I can put it out there. We can work on it. Hopefully you'll learn it, but I have not been able to force a child anything. But a parent needs to help us hold the kid accountable. And parents just are not holding kids accountable like they should. Are there some out there? Absolutely. I'm not saying they aren't, but by and large, parents now, you read these things and you hear the videos and all that. Parents, a lot of teachers say, I don't want to call parents. Why? They'll start fussing at me. Well, what did you do? Why aren't you doing this? Whatever. And that's very real. That exists. And so parents, when we were coming up, thank you for calling. I'll take care of this. And they would. Now it's, what did you do as a teacher? Why aren't you doing this? It's your fault. And they, want to blame the teacher. So holding kids accountable for their learning, their education, I think has been the big change. It's shifted.
I agree with that 100%. And the lack of accountability goes far and away beyond just teenagers and education. I think it's spread through society as a whole. Um, what magic bullets do you think education could have if you could have total control for one day? What?
One day,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
it'd take more than a day, but
That way you wouldn't have to spend the rest of your life explaining why you did what you did.
yeah, I agree there. I think somehow taking the burden off of the teachers and putting it back to where it belongs as far as accountability. Not sure how to do that yet, but I think that would go a long ways, and that answers a lot of other issues in education. You know, why are we losing teachers? Um, Teacher morale is a big issue, but shifting that accountability back to the parents, you know, make them part of this process. You know, we used to always say there's a teacher, there's a student, and there's a parent. And so most of the responsibility, like we were just saying a moment ago, is on the teachers now, and shift it back to the student and parents. You know, hey, y'all got part of this as well. How to do that? I don't have a cure for that one,
Well,
but
I
that would
think
be my thing.
probably the first thing we could do would be to eliminate social promotion.
That would be a big thing. Your home state of Mississippi, they passed an act uh, back around 2016, I think it was, and they have moved up. They were, the joke was, if you were in Georgia and Alabama, you'd always say, "Thank God for Mississippi for
That's
the
exactly
education."
right.
Well, you can't say that anymore. Mississippi has moved up. They're in their rankings in math and in reading, they have moved up and they continue to move up. And the one thing that they did is they eliminated social promotion in third grade. And they put the standard out there and said, this is where it is. And they've gone back to what is real research based instruction for reading. And their NAEP scores have gone up in their categories. They have improved drastically. And it's been exactly that. That, you ask them, they say, holding the line on that, not promoting these kids. And so it has made a huge difference for them, and they continue to improve.
You know, that reminds me of something I read a few weeks ago about in California, the opposite is true. They have decided that math is inherently racist.
Mhm.
And because math is racist, insisting on the right answer just continues that inherent racism. And I see that as almost an educational cancer that has to be ended pretty soon, or all responsibility is going to end as far as educational progress.
Well, none of this happens in a vacuum, as we say, and math is not relative. English is not relative. There is a right and a wrong. Yes, process is important. How do you get to this answer? But at the end of the day, we are looking for what is the right thing here. Can you show me you know this? And I mean, that's what society is. What do you know? What can you do? You know, those types of things. Are you teachable? Can you learn? Those things are important.
Well, do you think that compulsory education is part of the culprit here?
I don't think we've advanced as a society without education. I think that, and I'm one of those rare birds. I'm conservative, but I believe in public education. I know that's an oxymoron there, but we don't advance a society without an educated populace. I think that was a Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin quote there.
Yeah.
And we have to educate our people, and there has to be some basics in that. Now, I think our structure can change drastically. I think it's going to because the teacher shortage. But I think it wouldn't be wrong to say, okay, in eighth grade, where do your interests lie? I'm not a fan of forcing people one way or the other, but I do believe that we can give more choices and say, oh, you're interested in the trades. So let's look at moving you towards the trades. Oh, you're interested in the arts. Let's move you towards the arts. You like the sciences. Let's move you in that direction. I think those things are very real. I think they carry the promise of a lot more success if implemented correctly. A lot of nations around the world, particularly in Europe, do those kinds of things. I think U.S. could benefit from that, but we're still in lockstep. 8 to 4, 7 to 3, whatever, 5 days a week. And this is what we do. So,
And one of the most unrealistic issues that has come up in education over the last few years is everybody has to go to college. Well, no, they don't.
no,
That's insanity, I think. And insisting that everybody go to college is one of the reasons that we have an uh, amazingly large student debt.
absolutely.
But a lot of people don't need to be there. They need to find something they like to do rather than something we want them to do.
Yeah. And how many people have we known through the years who didn't go to college straight out of high school, but they later went to college because they figured out, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
How many college degrees have been wasted, and kids are working at, and I'm not knocking the jobs, but working in service industry, but they have degrees in other things, accounting or business or whatever, but A, there's not a job, or B, they said, this wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned a little while ago that you were unsure about exactly what you wanted to do at 17 and 18 and 19. I'm reminded of a young man at Shaw that told me he wanted to drop out of school right before graduation. And I like to talk to kids and find out why he was 18, so he could do that. But I wanted to find out why. And he said, well, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And I said, well, that's an admirable goal. Now, tell me why you want to do that. And he said, because I got to get out of this school. People are always telling me what to do.
Well, buddy, okay.
I invited him to come back in a few months and let me know how that went for him. I hope it went well. But what do you see as the future of public education, Fred?
I think there's going to be a massive shift. I see choice is becoming more prevalent. Alabama just passed their choice bill. Georgia passed their Promise Act. And so I see choice becoming a thing. I don't know how we're going to address the teacher shortage. It's all over. It's not just, in particular pockets. It's all over the country.
It is.
And, everybody wants to say schools are about the students. Okay. They may be about the students, but they don't run without teachers. You don't have, you could have fewer students. You're still going to have a school if you have teachers. But if you don't have teachers there, you don't have a school.
No, you don't.
And I don't know what the thing is that's going to get more people involved in this profession. I mean, Alabama, I think, did one thing. They increased teacher pay for math and science teachers. And that was nice. They've increased the salary across the board, but there's still other issues. One of my biggest issues is professionalism. I think we've got a lot of admin people who don't understand what professionalism looks like. They, either micromanagers, or they don't support. They don't know what it looks like. And, I have the fortune, I talked to a couple of people who just finished their admin degrees or finishing up, and I get to talk to them and tell them, hey, do this, don't do this, always be available, visit classrooms, don't sit in your office all day, get out there, be seen, simple basic stuff that doesn't require a college degree. Get out there. What was it they said about leadership? Leadership is 80% being there, being present. That's simple, but how often have we seen where's the leader today?
Yeah,
things like
right.
that.
Well, it's easy to pick out schools that do not have effective leaders. All you have to do is look at how many teachers have transferred over the last 2, 3 years or whatever of any administration, and you can see who the problem is.
Well, and you and I saw the same list that would come out. We'd see that teacher transfer list that would come out. We'd look at it, And you and I both had the same question. Well, why aren't they addressing the leadership issue?
Yeah,
Because
that's it. Well, I hate to say it, but central office answers usually promote the ineffective administrator.
yes, yes.
But
And we
anyway,
saw that a lot.
yeah, that's right. So, what are you planning on doing, Fred, after your second retirement?
Well, my wife and I were looking at moving either Tennessee or North Alabama. We're looking to move, and we want to travel and, just hopefully grandchildren are in our future at some point. Our boys are 19 and 21, so that's not anything immediate, but we're looking at, just moving to a peaceful area. I've been here my whole life. My wife's been here her whole life. So she's like, I'd like to go somewhere else. So we're looking at doing that.
Well, I can recommend either Tennessee or North Alabama highly. North Alabama up around Huntsville is absolutely beautiful, and Huntsville is surprisingly nice
Yeah.
with the Redstone Arsenal and all that there. Of course, that may be on the Chinese list of first to be bombed. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it is a beautiful place. Well, listen, I appreciate you talking to me this morning, Fred, and whatever you decide to do, let me know when you move.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody around here would be disappointed if you hung around.
Well, my wife would be. She wants to move. So, and I don't want to stay either. I want to go experience something new. So
Well, good, good. I hope that works out for you. And thanks again, Fred.
well, thank
And
you. I appreciate it.
thank you again for your service to students in this area for so many years.
I've enjoyed it. And thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.